Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Accountant Best Practices in QuickBooks Online. My name's Woody Adams. I'll be your host for the next hour. Should get you out on time. I got 10 Mountain Standard or 11 Central, so we'll get done at noon Central. And just really happy to have you here. In order to communicate with me, since everyone's muted as designed, right, there's a questions box in the GoToWebinar panel. So feel free to ask your questions there. And if I see any thematic ones, I'll go ahead and answer them as we're going through. The others I'll leave to the end, and I'm happy to stay a little after too to answer other questions. I am recording this for today, so if your account manager invited you today or what have you, you can get the recording. I'll have it to them later today. I also, in the questions box, I already got a question. There's a recording from October, same content we're covering. I don't think I'm changing it much, so feel free to leverage that one. It's a YouTube link. Yeah, but do appreciate that, and just use a questions box to communicate with me, and I think that's it. So let's go ahead and quickly introduce myself, and then we'll dive into product. I do have a few slides to go to. Yeah. So yeah, Roger, well, he's asking about getting an IAF file uploaded into QBO. Though not specific to the content we're covering today, there is no way outside of a third party. So Transaction Pro Importer is a great one. They can import IAFs into QBO, and on apps.com there's other IAF and Excel importers into QBO. I know desktop has that ability, not that it's super easy, but in QBO you'd have to leverage a third party. So apps.com for that kind of stuff. So here I am, longtime pro advisor with QuickBooks, certified in QBO, used to be certified in desktop. I still install it, support it, sometimes do trainings on it, but I just see no reason to get certified in desktop. From my perspective, I'm just kind of trying to just, even though we're supporting both platforms, focusing on QuickBooks Online Account and stuff like that. Been with Intuit since 2004, and also every Thursday, like today, at 3 o'clock Mountain or 5 Eastern, we have the QBO show. Myself and Stacy Kildall do that for about a half hour, 45 minutes. I think we're just going through what's new in QBO today. So if you want to listen, you can go to radiofreeqb.com. It's just a podcast. You can listen tomorrow or anytime in the next couple of weeks. There's a bunch of archive shows there as well. And then I put the deck in the handout section of the GoToWebinar panel, the PowerPoint deck, because the last 2 slides have a bunch of links for free resources, other training, that we do, as well as just other things that are important, other videos, short videos, things you can share with your clients even, just getting ramped up on QuickBooks Online. And then please, you can view but not download that QuickBooks Matrix. Just kind of compares all our products across about 140 different feature sets. All right, so we're going to align with the platform. I got a couple slides, like I said. Then we're going to dive into QuickBooks Online Account, and we're going to start there. We spent a good 25 minutes at least in QBOA. There's a lot to cover now, a lot of things we've added. Then we'll dive into a client file and go through some key accountant tools, how you get open windows or reporting, staff visibility, things like that, so some navigation tips. And then we end with bank feeds. Just a great way to get the data in, just a quick overview of bank feeds with the credit card and the banking, the checking account, how you can create rules, how QBO creates its own kind of rule, when do you need rules, when do you not, some best practice around bank feeds, and that's pretty much where we end it. And then I'll go ahead and go through your questions. But feel free to ask them on the way, because some stuff I might see that might be pertinent to ask right away. 78% of small businesses will move online using an accounting software in the cloud, if you will, web-based accounting software by 2020. It's a little more than 78 now. It's in the low 80s anyway. So I think that's important from a firm perspective, as well as that we just hit 2.55 million QBO subscriptions. We got 3 million desktop users, so we're almost matching that, right? So we're still supporting, of course, both platforms. I mean, that's obvious to me. You got 3 million desktop users, so we're going to continue to support that. Not everybody has internet access and things like that. Some people just prefer desktop, right? And this is my point for those who aren't thrilled about QuickBooks Online. Though I hope you pick up some tips today to make it faster for you and more efficient. But if you don't like it, that's okay. But get a couple, 3, 4 people in the firm to like it. Because I think what these numbers prove and what you're seeing is that you're going to get a lot of clients on QBO. And then you're going to get the same trial balance that you would get out of desktop, and that's going to go to tax or whatever. So support both platforms as well. and just, assign some people in the firm that are just really adept at QBO and can and get certified, et cetera. And then you have revenue streams coming from both sides. That's what I'm saying. Okay, being on the cloud, improved collaboration, access anytime, anywhere. You need high-speed internet access. There's no offline mode with QBO. But my favorite, I think, reason for being for QuickBooks Online is, other than the collaboration, we'll go over that with the team and with your client and file share and stuff that we have now, but you don't need to transfer data files back and forth. You don't have to get a portable file or a backup file or an accountant's copy. It doesn't matter what year of QuickBooks they have. It's one single ledger in the cloud. You're logging in it, you're doing your stuff, and then you're going to the next file, right? So I think that is the biggest time savings and reason for being for adopting QBO from a firm perspective. Okay, so let's go into QBOA because that's where it starts. So enough with the slide, and hopefully you're seeing my screen. I am showing and still sharing, recording. Don't see any really other questions. That's good. And we're going to go through QBOA and then dive into a client file. So you see my list of clients here, right? And the name of the QuickBooks Online account. Assuming most of you have a QBOA already. Yes, the engine behind this is a QuickBooks Online Plus file. We give you this Your Books file. Don't use it though till you're really going to use it. And I'm going to show you where you can turn off access to this Your Books file with your staff when you invite them. So don't use it till you're going to use it. We give you a sample file. I just always like to qualify this. Under the gear icon in QBOA, next time check it out, you get the sample company. So if you're doing a lunch and learn or you just want to do some study, don't convert Rock Castle Construction into the Your Books file. Use the sample company. The Your Books file is really for the firm when the day becomes that you move your QuickBooks Accountant Edition firm file to QBOA. Right? So that's going to be your firm books, and you can keep your team staff out of it. The reason why I impress this fact upon you is that the customer list in the Your Books file is a mirror image of the your practice clients. So this list here, let me go ahead and I might need a different Chrome for this. There we go. Yeah. So this customer list is a mirror image of this your practice clients, right? So if I import a file, it's just going to jack up my client list. So leave the Your Books alone until you're really going to use it. Like I said, we give you a sample file under the gear icon. Now, we'll come back to the dashboard. I mean, to me, that's pretty obvious. We're surfacing up data about the file, bookkeeping related, changes to close books. Yes, you can set a closing date password on the file like you can in desktop. Unaccepted transactions, these are transactions that have not yet been added to the register. They're in the feed. So when I get to about 100 or more, I usually start working it. So I got to get in and do this one eventually. I think we're going to go into Cloud Collab today, but 125 unaccepted, things like that. The last download from the bank, payroll information. So we're going to surface up data. But for me, it's the team. Over under your practice, clients, team, pro advisor, work apps. So we'll go to team next, and we'll get into a file in a bit. So all your staff, each one doesn't need to have their own QBOA, and they don't need to be going in as you either, right? And they certainly don't need to be going in as the client, right? Let me bring up a client file really quick, right? So I am in, I love showing this visual because I think it helps those who aren't sure, well, what's the relationship or connection for me and my firm to the QBO file? Like, where does it start from? So in the client file, you have the gear icon, right? That's all your operational stuff. You have the left-hand panel, the plus sign, search field, gear. I mean, these are the access points of QBO. You get used to them. So you have manage users, right? So for me, you don't need to be up here ever. And your client doesn't need to invite you as a company admin or something like that. It takes away a seat, and there's no reason for you to be up here. Because you and your staff are coming in through this one user. Even though you're coming in uniquely with your own email address, the client, if they're a client that is new to the firm but already has QBO, they would just invite you as the accounting firm. When you create a subscription from QBOA, which I'll show you soon, there'll just be one of you. Whoever created the sub will be in the accounting firm section. You only need one of you down here because everybody else is coming through the team page of QBOA, and that's how it works. So I have two down here because I network with another firm, right? This is one firm, this is another. But typically on most of my QBO client files, it's just me, right, that email. But Ray, Leah, Valerie, Ryan, Lulu, they all come in through, because they're a team member of the QBOA, right? So I just like to clear that up in a visual way. So, and Ray comes into QBO.intuit.com just like everybody else does, right? That's the URL you're going to. When I log in, I'm the master admin at QBOA, but Valerie, we all come in with our own email address, own unique email address. We'll talk about ProAdvisor because it matters. We all go to QBO.intuit.com like our clients do, but we're driven to a QBOA, right? A QuickBooks Online account. So Ray, when you are inviting your staff, and Ray is one of them, I bring her in like during the tax season, so I don't want her to do a bunch of administrative stuff. I put in her email, first name, last name. I went to Client Access, and I checked off the clients that I want her to work on, clients that I want her to see when she logs in. It's not all 60. She sees about 10 for various reasons, right? So I can lock her out of clients. It's important to note, though, in this collaboration file she has access to, or the Jurassic Park gift shop client, she's like a company admin on that file. I can't further restrict her from what she does inside of the client file. Right? She can see payroll, registers, do bank fees, run company financials, etc. But she's accounting staff. I want her to be able to do that, right? So she's a company admin essentially when I check off a file and say, hey, Ray, you're going to have access to these 10 clients, right? So once you do that, then go into the administrative and books. Some of your staff, you're going to want to be full, where they can create subscriptions on behalf of the clients. Because any client you get that wants to go to QBO, you're going to create the subscription from QBOA. You're not going to have them go to QuickBooks.com and waste their time out there. Do it from QBOA. You get way better promo, and I'll go over that with the wholesale billing piece as well. So, but notice that I set Ray up in a way that she can't do anything else administratively. I don't want her to see the firm credit card under wholesale billing. I don't want her to add other team members. I don't want her to see the Your Books file. This is where you turn that off if you're going to leverage that. And I don't want her to add other QBO subs. So Ray just has a very basic access, right? But she has access to 10 clients. So when Ray goes in, and I have her in Firefox, and we'll go over browsers, and we'll go over Chrome in a sec too. When she's in here, she just sees, I mean, look at the difference between what I have and she has. She has Clients, ProAdvisor, and Work. Okay, and she has her 10 clients. So she can access them, and she's like a company admin in them, right? I'm going to have her go in, but I wanted to point out that she doesn't have Team. She doesn't have Your Books. She doesn't have Add Client Subscription in the upper right, right? So you can restrict administratively what your staff does. Right? And maybe for most of you it's just you, or maybe you got a couple other people that are full access, like Valerie. She can do pretty much everything I can. She just can't delete me. You know, a couple other things, so for the most part. All right, let's talk about ProAdvisor. Some of you might be desktop ProAdvisors. So quickly, here's where you come in, and your staff, because you're inviting them uniquely to QBOA, right? So they actually have their own free QBO advisor membership and ability to get certified in QBO to become more adept at the platform, and then even, you know, go for the advanced certification. And they can put together their own profile and publish it on the Find a Pro Advisor site, and you can have all your staff out there, and we all support QBO, and even your desktop Pro Advisors, when they accept the invite to the firm QBOA, they can click this drop-down arrow, Connect Accounts, and they can put in their customer account number and license number of QuickBooks Accountant Edition, and they'll see all their desktop certifications as well. So you can manage your Pro Advisor membership, whether it's just the free Pro Advisor for the QBO folks, or the, you know, you're paying $349 a year to get QuickBooks Accountant Edition to, you know, be compatible and work with your Pro Premier clients, right, or the $549 a year for Enterprise, you know, that includes the Enterprise QuickBooks. So I manage everything from in here regarding my Pro Advisor, my profile, my certifications, downloading my software, etc. So that's the other point why it's important to invite your staff uniquely to the firm QBOA with their own email. I don't want anybody going in as me, and certainly not the client. Now, the other thing that Ray saw, and every team member will see, is the Work tab. Right? This is kind of like your task management, project management, and file share section or area of QuickBooks Online Accountant, also free. Right? This is where I can create projects, even monthly recurring projects. Assign them to a client. Woody has this one. Leah has this one. I can change the due date out, then move it to the 15th. I can change it to a different, you know, person in the firm, and everybody can see the projects that they have. It's pretty easy to create a project. Up in the upper right, you click Create Project, you know, and we'll say this is like an audit or something that you're doing, or tax preparation or something like that. You choose the client, the due date that it's going to be, and then you assign it to whoever has access to that client file. right? So only Ray and I have access to this particular client. So everybody else who comes into the work page, they wouldn't be able to see any projects or tasks assigned to this particular client, right? But as long as they're assigned to, and they have the ability to access certain clients, then you can assign all your staff, right? So like, for example, I have this client. Most of us see this, so I can assign it to, we'll give it to Dave. He's going to start the audit, and I can add subtasks, and assign it to different people within the firm. Like Kim will do this part of the audit or the reporting or the cleanup or the investigation or whatever. And you can choose due dates, status, as well as make things repetitive. And it just adds it to your dashboard here. You can view it in the card view. So I have all these projects, like for due today, and this one's actually done. So you can mark them done. You can block them. There's like 4 or 5 different statuses, right? Due this week, due next week, due in the next 30 days. Up over here on the right, if I change it to the list view, I can change the status, and you can do a custom date range. So I think the list view is a little easier to see everything, particularly as you're building out projects and tasks, etc. The card view gets a little busy. So I'm going to look at everything to do and in progress, over the next 30 days. And this is all types for everyone, for all clients. But you can filter for particular clients, particular staff. So Ray could come in and just look at everything for her that she has, and she would see it. And then different types. Is it a project or is it a request? We'll talk about requests next. But again, right now, fundamentally, what we're working on, it's not yet integrated with Outlook or Gmail. I'm sure that's coming. Or your Google Calendar. I'm sure stuff like that's coming. You can do repetitive projects and make them recurring and set up intervals and stuff, but I can't yet publish it out to the whole client base. I just have to duplicate client by client. All that stuff I'm sure we're going to be adding. There's a lot of runway here in this kind of work module that we're creating to help you balance your engagements. Right? It's not meant to replace an existing engagement tracking you're using, though. However, one thing I did want to show is the file share, because that is super easy, and it's a QBOA to QBO communication. So when I go to create client request, and I'm going to say, need this form to do the 1120S, whatever the form is. I'll let you guys fill in the blank there. I'm going to choose the client. I'm going to give them till Monday to send it to me. All right, let's be a little nicer. I could push it out. But we'll leave it up to the 11th. Put in your details. I can even add a document if Clay's not really sure, my client, what document I really need from them. So this is a request. The client will get notified by email to respond in QuickBooks. It's literally QBOA to QBO. I can upload a document to them, and they're going to be uploading a document back. Or I can just ask them a question and say, hey, I need this form. I need this bank statement. I need this or this. You publish the client QuickBooks. It's going to send the request to the client file. Let's go back in that client file. I'm using a different Chrome user for this. We'll go over that in a sec. And they respond in this My Accountant tab in the left-hand panel. All right? And, this guy has a couple firms working, but in mine, I'm going to do the recently updated. Here's this form we just created. So Clay's able to see the request, and there's a lot there. I mean, because I'm doing this demo and using this file all the time. They probably would just see the request or maybe a couple you send over, and he can click Add Document and browse out and grab, a picture or the document or PDF or Excel spreadsheet or portable file or whatever I need him to send me. This file share is going to support most of your common documents, and as you saw, we scan it, for viruses and stuff. So, and they can even talk back to me. I don't mean in a bad way, you know what I mean? Like, hope this is the correct form. Let me know. And I'll see that in QBOA. Now, I'm not alerted. I don't get an email when I create a project. Your staff won't be alerted. You have to be looking for it. The alerts go to the client, though. But this is where, in this My Accountant tab, under Accounting, you got My Accountant, and this is where your client will share documents back to you, QBO to QBOA. So if we go back to the card view, and I'm going to filter by just requests, we'll see this one here, right? And need this form to process. Yeah, I think this is the one we did. Or did we do this one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. I seem to be using the same ideas. I got to get a little more creative, I guess, running out of ideas. So on the card, again, I'm not getting alerted or anything. I didn't actually send the email to the client. I mean, you probably will because they're not going to be in QBO, but I'm just sending it to me. So why send an email to myself? It's kind of narcissistic. Anyway, I have two, ones here, an attachment and a message. So I can click on it, and now I can see the document. I can go ahead and open it up. Boom. There it is. So we're just on that screen. And I can see his comment and respond back, yes, thanks. You know, post an email, he'll get an email. So he doesn't have to go into QBO to see my comment. So we're talking back and forth between QBO to QBO, right? From my QBO work to his QBO and back. File share. So work is about engagement tracking and file share. The other thing that's new that I wanted to mention is apps. And I remember Roger, I think, he just, Sherry, I'll get to that question next. He just asked, a little bit ago about importing IAF files, right, into QBO. So though you can go to apps.com, and by the way, have I thanked you for coming today? I hope I did. If I did not, I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to give you this free resource, right, because I just have no short-term memory. So this Homestead account, QuickBooksProductVideos.homestead.com, right, there's a bunch of resources here on the home page for you, even free CPE training if you want from Accountant University, and all this other stuff for your clients and them being able to master the basics. These are great free tutorial videos, etc., and then more specific QBO, QBOA. Most of the stuff I'm covering today we have in a shorter version or abbreviated or more deep dive all on this page. And I got a buddy, one of my peers is actually making this site, more user-friendly. It's more, I'm not really a web designer, but hey, it's out there. Free resource, leverage it. It will get easier to find stuff, believe me, over the next month or two. But here's where you can come out and get info. But one of the things, and you can go to apps.com, these are the third-party apps that Intuit has vetted. It's about 400 of them. I'm not saying there's only 400 that connect to QBO. There's thousands. But these are the ones we've actually vetted and put through, the criteria and stuff. So they're on apps.com. For the, importing information or IAF file, since you can't do that natively, you would just do a search for what you're looking for, or I think this one's going to be under data sync, yeah. So just for example, here's Transaction Pro Importer, right? So the reason why I'm showing you this, and this will help import IAF files, transactions into, is because what we did, for those of you who are full users, full team members of a QBOA, because remember, Ray doesn't have access to this, but you might. Right? Just keep them at full when you're setting up the team member, inviting your staff. They have the ability to see apps.com inside of QBOA. So I can do some research, and say, hey, my client needs an e-commerce solution. So I'm going to do Unify because that pulls in from all these different shopping carts. Or maybe I need more of a point of sale, so look at Sin7 or whatever. And you can always email your account manager and ask, hey, I have a construction client, and they're a general contractor, not government or commercial, but just residential. What's a good app for that? And then we'll suggest Notify because it's just great. But you can come out and do research yourself, set up demos from here from the third-party app, and you can even, the master admin of QBOA, I won't dive too much in this because I think it's a larger discussion, but the master admin of QBOA has the ability to see what apps are already connected to a client file. As well, I can add an app on behalf of my client to a particular client file. Right? I have this ability. For Nash's Books and Gifts, they want to do more automation of data entry. So I'm going to hook them up with this app, and I'm going to do the connection. And it's a free trial, so then I'm going to invite my client as a user, and they're going to put in the billing information. Because right now, you can't yet add an app to wholesale billing, though that's coming, and that's a good segue to get into wholesale billing and then move into a client file. I told you we'd be in QBOA for a while, right? We're at 23 past the hour, but we're still rolling. We'll still get there, and I'll make sure. I've never had a session that went over where you couldn't get to your next engagement, right? So I commit that to you. Some of the questions I might have to wait till after, though, but I'll try to get to a couple right now. But anyway, net. The story is, right now, the master admin of QBOA can, on behalf of the client, connect a third-party app to the client QBO file. Historically, the client had to be the one doing it, and sometimes it's too daunting of a task for them to take on, right? So you're going to do it. And don't worry about the billing, because when you invite the client as a user, they'll be able to put in the credit card. Right. So that's third-party apps. You can do some research yourself in QBOA, or you can go to apps.com. Now, yeah, sure, Roger. So that's an IF, but there's other ones too. Just go to the data sync. So, all right, Sherry, we have 3 employees that have been sending invite your accountant using their own email for the invitation. Are you saying the firm should just have one email for the invite your accountant? Yes. However, not necessarily. Hold on, I'm too quick on there. Let's talk, because this is important. I mean, there's other things I want to show, but I want to make sure we're aligned here. And that's a really good question. It's very important. If Valerie, I mean, ideally, I think for a best practice, What Sherry's saying is, do we need a best practice where we create like a generic email for the master admin? Yes, firms are doing that. So that no matter the client, they say, hey, Woody, invite, QuickBooks Online work at, sherrycpa.com. And that's just a generic email Sherry created just to make it easy. And then when whoever's managing that email address accepts the invite, boom, they're in the list. It's a great best practice. And a lot of firms, particularly larger the firm where there's just so many staff, it's a great way to do it. Create a generic email, sign up for QBOA. However, the nice thing is you don't have to do that. If you already have a QBOA and you really like it, don't worry. You don't have to undo the house and rebuild it. Not at all. The full team members, right, Valerie, of which is a full team member, if she, let's say Roger's her client, and Roger already had Essentials, QBO Essentials, and Valerie's part of my QBOA. But Roger doesn't know me. He knows Valerie. That's the staff member at the firm working with Roger. So Valerie's just going to say, hey, Raj, just go ahead and email me at Valerie_Heckman@Intuit.com. When Valerie accepts the invite, even though it's not me, she's not the master admin of the QBOA, when she accepts the invite, she'll see an option to choose our firm. And so Roger's file will actually roll up under our firm, even though Valerie's not the master admin. So Sherry, no, you don't. You could just pick a few people in the firm, whoever is the lead staff for that bit of clients, then that's how you do it. And actually, even if Valerie, it's a great segue too, thank you. It turns into a fantastic question because lead to other things. Hopefully that makes sense. When Valerie comes into QBOA, right, and she sees, I think Valerie has access to at least 50 of our clients, so she's a big player in the staff, right, where Ray is, to be fair, she's 12. She does a good job, but she's 12. But Valerie, so I only give Ray just about 10 clients. But in this firm file, when Valerie logs in and she sees like Valerie's client 60, she clicks Add Client, right? Because when, again, you don't want the client to go to QuickBooks.com to sign up. Just have them create QBO. You create the QBO. Valerie can come in and create the QuickBooks Online sub, and it's her name in Manage Users anyway, as the lead. She's the team lead for the file. So to your point, Sherry, you don't have to wreck the house and rebuild it. If you got a good QBOA and like I'm your staff member, but I have the relationship with the client, they can invite me, and as long as I choose your QBOA upon accepting the invite, we're good. And then we can all work on it. We can all work on the consolidated list. Now, back to creating a client, wholesale billing, a new client. You have to have their email. If you don't have it, use your own. That's okay. Just you can always change it later on. For the 5 for 25, that's why I mentioned that. You don't always have the client email because you don't know which shell you're going to use for yet. You don't have a client yet. You're just purchasing 5 QBOs for $25 a month because it's a great deal. A lot of people are doing that. Some of you have probably already done that. So you can put in your own email and transfer the master admin later. But I put in mine. I know the client. Here's the client. And let's go over wholesale billing, and then let's dive into a client file. And I'll ask those other 2 questions in a sec. Danny's asked, I don't know who my account manager is on the email. Oh, you might not. It depends. This invite for these sessions go out to a lot of people, and you might not have an account manager. I'm just speaking those that would. But you can contact support. You can always contact QBO sales. Whoever sent out the invite, maybe you could email them or something like that, right? So, okay, wholesale billing versus direct discount. The only reason why I'm in here is to reaffirm that for clients wanting to go to QBO, let's say they're going from Pro 13 or 14 or whatever, or they want to use the phone app, because they hear about that and they can take a picture of an expense, it creates a transaction, and, desktop isn't as mobile, they don't want to pay the hosting fee, they just want to collaborate better with you, or they're just really just savvy online and they wouldn't even consider installing a desktop application. I mean, you have some of those clients. They're like, no way am I installing Premiere. Why would I do that? It's like, looks old and stuff. So you'll have, and I don't mean that in a bad way, right? You're going to have those clients, you want to support them. So you put them on QBO, right? And leave the other ones who love Premiere on Premiere. Right? I don't have a dog in the fight, honestly, between the two. I appreciate both products. So I've been able to support them for so long, and so I'm happy. I grew up on desktop, and I've been using QBO since '09, right? So anyway, when I say these comments, I don't mean to that I'm looking down on someone that prefers desktop. I have a lot of friends that do that, and I think it's great. Totally up to you. Support both. Anyway, I'm going to create the subscription for them from QBOA. right? Now, if the client wants to pay and it's plus, and if you're not sure the difference, the main difference is just to tell you to list them. If you're keeping track, but don't worry, you can always click compare, right? And it'll give the difference between essentials and plus. 1099s, though there's a great third-party app called tax1099.com. You can link to your Simple Start and Essentials clients. You also have class and location tracking. So if you're used to class tracking in the desktop, that's what I mean. Two-sided items, or you might call it double-sided items. Those are important. Any service-based business I know would need plus. If I have any service-based clients, they're going on plus. Because Essentials and Simple Start only have single-sided items, so that's not really helpful for me. Inventory, that's first in, first out, right? And then if you need more than 3 users, purchase orders, right? So that's plus, right? More like solid desktop pro. We got price rules in there now, so we're only missing we got progress invoices kind of being rolled out too, which is pretty cool. So pro only has estimate to actual reporting. That's like the main feature gap, I think, and clients might not even need that. Anyway, so plus is more like pro is for the most part. But notice if the client pays for it, it's like $35 a month for the first year, and then it's going to go to $50. Right? If it's under wholesale where the firm is paying, then it's $25 a month, right, for life of the sub, and the payroll is also 50% off. So yes, there is a discount and a promo for the first year, even if the client pays, because some firms don't want to take on the billing, and that's fine. These are just options, like desktop or QBO, wholesale or direct discount. But wholesale, if you are that firm that is looking for, hey, we provide these services to the clients, we charge them $300 a month, and we're going to roll in QBO just to make it easier, then do wholesale billing, because it's the cheapest way to get the subscription, 50% off for life of the sub. And when you're creating the subscription, you never need to be the master admin again. Even under, here, let me show you something else, and we'll dive into a client file. Got to get some reporting, navigation, got to get some bank feeds. In the count and settings, which is like edit preferences, okay, for those of you used to desktop. And I'm going to refresh. It's eventually going to load. Chrome, I have not cleared the cache today. I find that helps with Chrome. If you're a Chrome user, you know what I mean. So this billing and subscription tab, if it's under wholesale, we remove this, even from the master admin's view, if the master admin's your client. And the firm has to add payroll or upgrade or downgrade a subscription or cancel it or remove it from wholesale, right? So under wholesale billing, not even Clay would see this, even though he's the master admin of the file, but it's under my credit card, so I don't want him to see that info. So we hide that from their view. So wholesale billing is really safe, great way to get it cheap, and you never have to be the master admin if you think, oh, I don't want them to see the credit card, because they're never going to see it anyway, right? And then at the time I'm creating the subscription, I can check off my staff that I want to see. I want them to work in this file. They're going to play too, so I want them to see this file in the client dashboard list in QBO, right? So you're creating subscriptions for clients wanting to go to QBO for whatever reason they're going to go. You're creating the subscription by clicking Add Client. But remember, Ray doesn't, because I don't want her to have that access. So remember, you have that ability to restrict them. All right, I'm going to dive into a client file. We're going to do a cloud collaboration because I got some bank feed work, but we're going to do some navigation. But first, let me answer a couple questions. Is it the same price whether we select wholesale or direct? The retail is, yes, but the promo is different. Good question, Michelle. So wholesale is always going to be 50% off retail. Right now, the retail for Plus is $50, so it's $25 a month for life of the sub, and 50% off the payroll. Right? The direct bill is going to be, I think, about 35 or 40% off retail is what I've been seeing. Because it's $10 more, and the promo is only good for a year, so it's going to go from 35 to 50 next year. So it really comes down. I mean, if the client wants to build, great, that's your model, or maybe you have a mixed bag. Most of the firms I present to on a daily basis have a mixed bag. Some on wholesale, some where the client just deems it as more control or whatever, even though Intuit stances they control the data no matter who's paying for it anyway. It's a small business. So, that being said, you have wholesale is 50% off for life of the sub. If you're doing the firm of the future thing, meaning, you are doing these two, hey, Woody, you have 3 service options to choose from my firm. We'll do this, this, and this, and this, this, and this, and this, and then another 5 or 6 things, and here's what you'll pay monthly. And then you might not even tell me, look, we're going to give you QBO as your software, and that's just part of the service package. A lot of firms are doing that, value billing as they call it. And then that's where the wholesale billing is advantageous, because then it's the cheap, like I said, the best way to get it from a fiscal standpoint. Oh yeah, Roger, this one I can do, and then I'll go in and we'll do questions at the very end, right, when we hit the top of the hour, because I know some people will have to leave. He's asking about fixed asset management, because you know how fixed asset management, really, forgive me, if you put in, like in QuickBooks Account Edition Enterprise, there's a fixed asset manager, FAM, right? So there's no such manager or tool within QBO, or because you're coming in from QBOA, right? There's no statement writer. That would be a third party. But the only third party I know that's kind of akin to FAM, or that tracks fixed assets, because FAM's a Pro Series product too, as you probably know. So anyway, is Asset Guru. Asset Guru. You can Google it or go to apps.com, and it'll solve for that. That's a third party. So, all right, so I'm in the client file, right? But different, because why? I have this briefcase up here in the left. We're going to go through the toolbox, and I have the drop down to other client files. So once you're in, you're in. You don't have to log out and go to another. You just click the drop down, go to the next file, right? But I still have the left-hand panel. We will be in banking feeds at the very end. Sales and expense, we won't really go in here, but pretty obvious, right? My guess is you're going to have sales and expense transactions and customers and vendors list in here. Yep, you got it. Payroll, you got reporting, several buckets, sales tax and payroll tax. Accounting, we've already been through my account. And accounting is going to be, chart of accounts and reconcile. And then, even though it's a little different because the search field's up here, let's go as now through QBOA, still I have the Spinny Plus, as I call it, or Quick Create is a technical term, but I prefer Spinny Plus. And that's like all your transactions. Journal entries here, bank deposit, I like to point those out because sometimes you don't know where they are. There's no banking or company menu, right? So I'm just trying to, right? I've been down that hole, so I found my way out. I'm just trying to share. These things are here. And then you have the gear icon where we went to manage users, accountant settings, right? Another way to get the chart of accounts. Memorize transactions. We just call it recurring transactions. That's also helpful. Might show that at the very end, depending. Our items list. Right? Reconcile, budgeting. Some of these things, it's the only way you can get. Some of these are just another way, right? So gear icon to me is more tools, operational stuff, preferences, settings, things like that. Spinny Plus, transactions, and you have left-hand panel. Not that this is the only way I can get to an invoice. I can get to an invoice by going to sales and then click on invoices, right? So always ways to do it. And you'll have the same experience. I mean, you're in their file. However, we do provide you with a little different search. When you left-click, it shows the last 10 transactions in the file, which is helpful when your client emailed you or something like that. Said, hey, there's a Comcast bill. I think I put it to the wrong account. Actually, I did like several duplicates. Can you help me? And then just look in the search field because they're probably there. Like, it's probably the last thing that Woody did. He keeps doing that anyway, so, right? So look for that. But you can also do a search for reports and stuff, So it shows, like, all reports customized first and then A to Z, Because we have the reporting buckets, right? We go to reports because I'm about to show some how do you get multiple windows. But under all reports, you have, like, company financial, which we call business overview. ARAP, pretty obvious what reports would be in there. Payroll related, items related, sales expense, stuff like that. And then accountant reports, this is where you probably notice is a general ledger and trial balance, as well as a transaction detail by account. These are some key reports. By the way, I've been doing some research on the side for, like, what are the main, like, 15 reports from a workflow basis that are helpful for my clients. I'll try to share the list at the end. I was working with an accountant on a demo yesterday, and we kind of put together a list of a dozen. You do reporting more than me, so I'm not saying it's better than your list. Go with your list, but I'll still bring it up. But the big thing that we get, and I get still, is, in desktop I have all these open windows, and I have a P&L up, a balance sheet, I got a journal entry up, I got my register up, and I'm just toggling back and forth, and it's just a party. When I come over to QBO, I go into, like, the profit and loss, and, I make a customization or something. Maybe I'm looking at, this year to date. Oh, cool that I can click previous year and do, like, percent change. Great. But then I see something on the report, something like odd, like prepaid inventory that is different. So I drill on it and I lose the summary page. I drill in to see the detail, but I lose the summary. So, and it's like, that can be frustrating because then you hit the back button, you lose your place in the report or the columns. All right. So how do I do this kind of similar open window thing, and it's really tab browsing. So here's a couple things. First, under the toolbox, this is, if you guys are using QuickBooks Accountant Edition, there's an accountant menu. Same kind of thing, just not the same feature set, of course. But I have the batch classified transactions. I can miscode, I can recode in a batch miscoded transactions. I can see what was voided and deleted. All these tools are helpful for you. There's a working trial balance in here. You know, and if you're using ProConnect Tax Online for your tax or online tax software, then you're just sending the balances over. You do it from this work center. But when I come in for my company financial summary reports, if I go to report tools, I can set the date range that I want to be like, I want to look at like last quarter and cash basis. And I got a quick link under the briefcase too to go to accountant reports. So for my summary company financial reports like P&L, balance sheet, it's going to default to the last quarter cash basis. Right? And then before I drill in on this direct labor, which should be 0, but it's 1250, so that's odd from last time I was there, right-click the tab you're on, duplicate. This is going to create another P&L. Granted, it's going to be an extra step. Now I'm going to drill down on the 1250 to see the transaction detail. But now I have 2 different reports open, 2 different windows, right? And I can take this detail report and put it over on the other monitor, right? So I can do that as well. And you guys have 2 or 3 monitors open, so you can just move them over, and it's really easy to change the order and move them around. I might want to do this again because now I want to go do a journal entry. You know, in this case, I'm going to run the balance sheet report. So I go back to the report list. I'm back on accountant reports. I'm going to run the balance sheet. Again, right-click, duplicate. Also works with transactions. Go to the plus sign, right-click journal entry, open a new tab. Right? And so for lists, reports, transactions, now I have 4 windows open in the same file, right? When you're on a transaction, I like to point out this clock icon in the upper left. It's always going to show the last 10 transactions of the type you're on, and then you can always go to an advanced find from there by clicking View More. But notice on number 128 journal entry, it has an accounts receivable account and an AP in the same journal entry, so I can do more than one journal entry, more than one ARAP per journal entry. I just always like to point that out because you can't do that in desktop. Corazon said, is it correct that you cannot duplicate the tab when you are working from the QB app? Actually, the Windows app, under the File menu, next time you're in there, I don't have it installed because I just prefer Google Chrome for QBO. But the QBO apps that you can install, or the client apps that you can install on a PC or a Mac, they do have a open new window under the File menu. So yes, that actually has open windows. You know, and it works more closely to like desktop, and it has drop-down menus. It's also on the website. If you go to that home page, I just click it. QBO app for Windows. This is what Corazon's talking about. So download that. It's free. Your client might even use it. It just gives you more, even though it doesn't look like desktop. It's just the workflow is more akin to it, if you will. So some people find it more comforting or familiar, including your clients. Nothing wrong with downloading. It's great. You know, I just prefer Chrome. So anyway, journal entry, multiple ARAP. And yes, I know most journal entries are adjusting by nature, so why would we have this adjusting journal entry box? No, just like, oh, no problem. Just like in desktop, you have, in QBA, you have this QuickBooks Accountant Edition, you have this adjusting journal entry report. So you can, like, it's like a fail-safe for your journal entry adjustments versus, you know, other journal entries in the file, but hopefully your client's not making too many journal entries. You probably agree with me there. So I have 3 tabs open. It works with transactions. That's open windows. Also, you notice that I have this top icon bar. So, like, no matter what, actually, I want to leave that open. Let me duplicate again. And that way you guys saw it. But no matter what file I'm in, when I click Bank Rec, you know, it's going to bring me to the Reconcile screen. I mean, I know it's under Accounting and next to Chart of Accounts, but some stuff's buried. I don't know, Products and Services. This brings me to the items list. Pay bills is pay bills. I mean, all I'm doing is going to the lists or transactions that I leverage on a daily basis. And you can teach a client to do this. Because just because I set up the top icon bar for me doesn't mean you'll see it too. Right? You have to set it up in yours. So all I'm doing is favoriting it and adding it to the bookmarks bar. Right? And it's worthwhile, though sometimes it can be a can of worms. So, but still, if you're a Chrome user, and one of the benefits of Chrome, and then we'll move on to like saving reports, show you how to auto send, batch classify, bank feeds, recurring transactions just quickly on automation with QuickBooks Payments. and then we'll look at questions. Got about 16 minutes, plenty of time. So when you're using Chrome, in the upper right, next time you're in, I bet it says for you person 1, unless you're, you know, if you're using Chrome for a while and you know that you can create Chrome people. What I like about Chrome is different from, say, Firefox, which is also great. Like for QBO, I like Firefox, and they just had this update that allows me to do the right-click duplicate in Firefox too. You know, and if you have to use IE, okay, but IE 11, be okay. Still supported. I use it sometimes, particularly when I'm converting a file back to desktop. That's the only one that works to do that. And that happens. Anyway, you can come in next to the minimize icon. Click on person 1 or whatever you call it. It might be your name because you logged into Gmail or something. You can go to manage people. Add a person. Add a QBO Chrome. Add a Chrome user, a Chrome person. Don't do this. Don't do the desktop shortcut unless you like more desktop shortcuts on your monitor. I can't stand them, so I uncheck that box. But anyway, add a person. Name it like, you know, QBO work. You can isolate. This is what I like. You can isolate all your QBO work in like a totally just an exclusive Chrome person or user, so that when you clear the cache, you know, it only clears it for this Chrome user. I mean, I would not use this for QBO, because, I mean, look how many bookmarks I have just for non-QBO related work stuff, KB articles and all that stuff. So my suggestion is to create a Chrome user, you know, for QBO alone, and it gives you a blank bookmarks bar, and then you can build out your own top icon bar. So when you go to bank deposit, it brings you to bank deposit, right? So, all right, good stuff there. Now, let's say I did a customization. In summary reports, you're going to be able to customize by like period. So I can look at like previous period and percent change, or, you know, maybe year to date, and I click run report. You know, and that gives me the report I want. On detail reports, you can do a lot more. You can, you know, add more columns, move them around more, etc., similar into desktop. And you can always click customize here, and summary reports will have these options where I can go and filter by like an account or a customer or class, you know, or I can, you know, try to add some rows. With the summary reports, there's not a lot of rows to add. But with detail reports, there's a lot of rows to add. Like, for example, if I go to one of my favorite reports is, oh, let me do a search for it. Transaction, detail by account. This report, and you click the little baby gear icon, which, by the way, is on a lot of lists too, and reports. Not the big gear, the little gear, right? Settings icon. It's even on some transactions. But I can check on or off columns here, you know. Like, it doesn't default to debit credit, so I actually customize this report, because on this report, I want to see a debit and credit instead of amount and balance. Right? So it's really easy to check on or off columns, et cetera. But my point is, when you get a report, when you're on a detail report, there's way more stuff you can do, changing order, things like that. Summary reports are going to be summary, and not as much customization is available. But when you get the report the way you want it, save it. Call it whatever it is. We'll do this for today. You can add it to a group. I'm not going to this time, but I'll show you why. In the My Custom Report list, which is akin to memorized report list in desktop. You can add it to a group. Helps just visually when you're in that list, but also I can share it with just the firm. You might create a report that you just want to see staff, that you just want staff to see, I should say. You know. So, but I'm just going to click save. And then when I go back to the report list, there's this My Custom Report. And we'll look at another tool and then bank feeds. I have this is my memorized report list, right? My Custom Reports. I have a few reports that aren't part of a group, and then I create this investor specifically for a couple people, because the group is one thing. I mean, it just kind of puts it in this parent-child relationship. It's easy to see that I have key business reports, I have operational ones, maybe you call them monthly financial statements, whatever you want to call the group, you know. But if this is supported in your state, that a client can receive a report that's not encrypted via email, you can set up a group to auto-send. So weekly, every Friday, I send this group to these investors, you know, in the email 2-line. And they just receive it as an attached PDF. And there's an option to have it go as Excel, but I typically send it as a PDF. And that is like, you can auto-send reports, you can auto-send transactions out of QBO, and the recurring transactions, we'll look at that a little later. But just remember, you're saving reports, even if you don't add it to a group or choose to share it with just the firm or other users. You're just creating the report so you don't have to reinvent the wheel next time, right? And this is your memorized report list. Okay, but just know that accountant reports, the GL trial balance, they're going to be under accountant reports as well as another way to get to a balance sheet and P&L. And yes, you can export these things to Excel and etc. Okay. Now, clear cache, real quick, Sherry. The 3 dots in the upper right, or you can do Control Alt and is it Delete or something or Shift? No, Control Alt Shift maybe. Anyway, 3 dots, more tools, clear browsing data. Okay, Control Shift Delete. That's how you do it. And I just find because Google Chrome gets bogged down with cache, no matter what software you're using it for, you probably noticed it. So clear it like once a week. And when I create a separate Chrome user for QBO, it's only going to impact that Chrome user, not like my non-QBO one where I don't want to clear because I have some saved stuff that I don't want to blow out. So I find that. Multiple tabs are auto-created. Yeah, so Alicia, good. So do you ever have a problem when opening a new tab? Yes. So here's when you will. So that's why I suggest right-click, duplicate. That won't be a problem. However, sometimes I've noticed intermittently when you go to the briefcase and go to new window, it creates like 20 tabs in a row. So just like, I don't use this new window thing under the briefcase anymore. It's easy enough for me in Firefox or Chrome or even IE. They all behave the same now. Firefox used to be the odd one out, but now it's just like what Chrome does. Right-click, duplicate, and that's tried and true. I never have problems there. The accountant toolbox, new window, yes. I typically, I don't even show it anymore. All right. So I'm glad I came in here because I almost forgot this tool, the batch or classify, and then we'll look at bank feeds, and then we'll finish up with questions. We got about 9 minutes left, plenty of time. Okay. So, although the design of this tool, and some of you who use QuickBooks Accountant Edition are aware of the Client Data Review module in there when you're supporting your Pro or Premier clients, you know, you can even do it in Enterprise, and they miscode transactions, so you don't want to recode each check and then click Save and Close and click on the warning because that's just going to be really annoying and take too long. So we have this batch or classify tool in desktop for you for that purpose, for me to be able to come in here. Notice it inherits the date range, the default date range I chose in Report Tools. I scroll down, uncategorized expense, I got a bunch, right? So I can check all these off and move it to the appropriate account. This is for phone or utilities, internet, whatever, right? So that's how it's intended, and that's great. You can batch or classify account-based transactions to the appropriate account. You might even tell your client, hey, write it to the Ask, Alicia account because Woody doesn't really know, where to put it. But that's fine because when I log into his file next month, there'll be like 80 checks. And, well, hopefully he's not doing a bunch of check writing. Hopefully he's doing like ACH and stuff. But you know what I mean. There's transactions, there's 80 of them, and they're all going to Ask Alicia, right? So I can just go in and check them all off and assign them to the appropriate account. And that saves you time. But the other thing that people are using this for is just to kind of bird's eye accounts. So I want to make sure that in prepaids, it's only journal entries, or fixed asset, it's only journal entries because I can look at the type. So instead of, you're going to do your reports, but some people will use the reclassify transaction tool to quickly come in and see what's in grants, funds, checking, make sure it's the appropriate accounts, etc. I just don't have a lot in there, but prepaid expenses, yeah, there you go. Good, it's only journal entries because you can sort by type too. So I find that helpful too, and I really like that tool. I like the reclassify transaction tool. I like voided deleted transactions. Not that I like that they void and delete them, but I like that I can see what they voided and deleted. Quick way to get to journal entries. You can do closing book password. Quick way to get to reconcile, right? So anyway, just remember the report tools, that gives you ability to do a default date range for the company financial summary reports and the batch or classify tool. The rest of the reports, like most of them, are going to default to this month to date. Okay. Now, lastly, data entry, getting data into the file. It's important to point out and spend like 3 or 5 minutes on, bank and credit cards. We have a lot of good training. My colleague Valerie has just an awesome deep dive on our product video site on bank feeds. And you can always do Control F on this site, by the way, until we make it better. I mean, my friend does, because that's not, again, in my wheelhouse for a skill set. But bank feeds end-to-end through training by Valerie Heckman, 22 minutes. Totally worth watching, Very good. I'm sure there's been some enhancements since it, but not much. It's still just best practices in doing bank feeds. But we connect to like 16,000 banks. And yes, the first time you connect, the choice is like 90 days of data, but you could choose 0, 7, 30, or 90. And if you need more data the first time you connect, get a file from the bank, because you can upload any one of these 4 file types. The CSV and the OFX works great, particularly the .QBO file. If you want to upload data into the bank feed upon first connection, and you need like the last 6 months or the whole year because it's just a new client, you just want to get the data in. Once you're connected, though, the next day you should see what cleared yesterday. Unless it hasn't been worked. These are unaccepted transactions. Let's look at the Amex, for example. And within each bank card, I have for review in QuickBooks excluded. In QuickBooks is obviously already in the register. And you can batch undo. You can batch modify. I can batch delete. Things that shouldn't be in there, you can exclude them. But in the for review tab, these are the unaccepted transactions that you're seeing in QBOA on the dashboard. You're like, what does 120 unaccepted transactions mean? That language is so that we're going to recognize a bunch of stuff. We'll go over rules in a sec. But let's say I'm going to, put in all of these things. I'm approving them right now. The language is to accept selected, right? Whether it's a match or whether a rule is applied, or QBO just remembers that anything from Circle K is gas, because I got one right down the street from my house here in Tucson, right? So the option is accept selected. That's why we use the term accepted or unaccepted. You might be like, what does unaccepted mean? That's why it is, because sometimes it's an ad, but sometimes we're matching to something that's already in the register, and we don't want to duplicate it. Look, right now we're going to tell you for this Wendy's, because I eat lunch there. Don't judge. Love it. They have like real food for the most part. 2 similar records found, So no, it was the one in the 28th. You or your client will know which one it is, and you click match. So it's either an ad or a match. And so we're going to point that out and turn it green if 2 similar records. The other thing I wanted to mention, I had a debit card transaction for this 325 yesterday, and it actually came in from the phone app. Now, I don't have time to show the phone app. There's a video, I think, on our site on that. But your clients have what in common? They have a credit card or a debit card, checking account, and they have a phone. They can download the QuickBooks app for the phone, and they can take a picture. I'm going to go to the expense just so you can see. They create the expense. They can take a picture. Here's the receipt, so you have it, right? And 2-3 days later, when the checking account feed comes in, if it's a debit card, it should be tomorrow, it's going to match. It'll say 1 similar record found, so I don't duplicate it. But literally, transaction entry, because the phone app looks at the same QBO file, right? So I'm in that file, so they can be on the go, taking a picture at the register in the car after Lowe's, and tomorrow it'll match to the debit card transaction that came in the checking account feed. So, I mean, those things are exciting for clients because they're like on the go anyway. For the ones that are on the go, they're going to want to use their phone or a tablet, and they can download an app. So now let's talk about rules really quick. Then I want to talk about automation with recurring transactions, and then we'll open up the floor for any more questions you have. And it's 3 minutes till. If you have to leave, fine, but let me go over rule. In the beginning, I was pretty rule crazy. Let me go to bank rules. I created a rule for everything until I realized that QBO starts to automatically create a rule for you anyway, like Circle K, 7-Eleven. Once you work a transaction in the feed, then QBO will remember next time. So I don't need a rule for everything. Now I'm just creating rules for when there's some more complexity to how I want the transaction to go into QuickBooks Online. And let me pick this one in particular, Kildall Services. So, okay, money out when the transaction meets any of the following criteria. Description contains Kildall, or the bank text is usually caps, right? And like 4 or 5 letters of the name or something. But I could also do, like let's say this was Lowe's or Home Depot, I could do an amount is greater than 500. And for that one line item, I don't want that to go to COGS. Where is it going to go, right? Well, maybe fixed asset or some other current asset account. Or maybe I want to do a percent across account and class. I just need more complexity for how I want QBO to categorize this. That's when you use a rule, or like an umbrella alias, because I have like 3 Home Depots here that one of my clients uses. And in the bank feed, the bank text or the bank detail comes down with a bunch of stuff. So I just create a Home Depot rule for like anything with home dep in it, all caps. But I created 4 or 5 rules because depending on how much he spent and which Home Depot it is, I want to make sure it goes to the right one. It's going to go to a different account. I mean, that's when you use rules, when there's more sophistication needed to corral the transaction or the feed to the appropriate categorization, right? And you can use it on revenue as well. But I find with purchasing rules works well. However, the other scenario for a rule, why? Automatically add to my books. If you don't need to review something, check this box. It is not default checked, and that's good, right? Yeah, just imagine. So, but for stuff that I don't need to approve or to accept, really, once the rule's applied, QBO will put it in the register. And don't worry, your client's going to figure that out one day. But don't worry, because when they create a rule that's just totally bogus, and I don't mean that in a bad way, they're just doing other things, right? So you're the experts. You should be creating the rules for them and knowing when or not to. But in QuickBooks, they're in there, and you can batch undo, right? It pulls without having to go into the register. But typically, most people right-click, duplicate, and go to the register. They'll have it up too. So bank feed's a great way to get it in. You want things to turn green so that you can just check them all off, batch accept. And the more you work it, the more green it gets. Okay? All right, lastly, I'm going to dive into a different client file. If you have questions, please start asking now. I'm happy to spend more time after. But I told you the top of the hour. Anybody needs to leave, by all means, head out. It's just recurring transactions we're going to cover in real quick in QuickBooks Payments. It's like 2 minutes. But if you have to go, we've basically gone through the best practices. So I just wanted to thank you for coming. If you have to leave, by all means. Under the gear icon, accountant settings, I'm in this payments file, right? Customer payments. Your clients can set this up for free. They just put in their banking routing, because when they create like a recurring sales receipt or an invoice, right, that goes out, they want to give their customers, your clients' customers, the ability to either pay online, like pay off an invoice using a credit card or bank transfer, you know, ACH, or set up a recurring sales receipt and do a direct draft from the customer for like a monthly service they're providing. And you can do this too, those of you using the Your Books file. It's free. QB Payments is free. Now the bank transfer though, getting paid from your customers or your clients getting paid from their customers, it's 5 days to fund. So you got to know that, because that might not work out for some of your clients. Right? So the free bank transfer, there's no fees. There are credit card fees, but when they're just doing the ACH banking routing, it does take 5 days to fund. So I like to qualify and be super transparent with that one. However, under the gear icon, the other automation, because this series used to be called Accountant Best Practices in QBO and Automation, so I always like to show this anyways for people who want to hang out. You have the ability to create, you know, automatic transactions for bills, checks, really anything except a received payment, unless it's a sales receipt, paycheck or a pay bill, right? All the other transactions are fair game. And you'll create, you know, recurring bills and checks for rent and utilities and things like that. It's auto entry. It's the same in desktop. It's just called recurring here, and there it's called memorized transactions, right? But check out this sales receipt, and then I'll get to that question there. There's 2 there. I'll get to them soon. Thank you. I've named it. It's to Chad. It automatically gets sent. That's what I love. The transactions, unlike desktop, are automatically sent out of Intuit servers, right? The QBO file. And I have his banking routing info and a signed authorization. So on the 7th of every month, he receives this, and then on the 12th, I see the money. I also have, I mean, there's some firms doing that wholesale billing using the Your Books file, and they're actually just created all these sales receipts, recurring templates, as recurring templates with the free ACH for their clients, because it's way faster. 5 days is long, but it's faster than the AR schedule they had before. Now, the other thing I have is an invoice to Ryan, just to show you that when you have payments turned on, you'll have this online payment option, and Ryan can both pay, because there's a Pay Now button. Email gets automatically sent, or the invoice does, by email. It includes any unbilled activity anywhere I tagged Ryan on the cost side or time entry that I want to include on this invoice, so nothing's forgotten. It's a great checkbox. There's even a global one, but this is way more control per client, you know, so I suggest this and not so much the global one. Anyway, bank transfer, right? Ryan will see an option when he clicks Pay Now, when he gets this, you know, online invoice, to either just enter a Visa or just give me his banking routing. Skips undeposited funds, right, goes right into checking. Yeah, so I just like to show that. There's ways to automate transactional activity, of course, and how it sends, but also with QuickBooks Payments, as long as they're good with that 5 days of fund with ACH, credit card is 2 to 3, normal. You know, the ACH is just longer than most. But if it's okay with a client, this is a great free way to do it. All right. One more time, how to import from bank QBO files older than 90 days. Oh, yes. This is how I typically do it. Let me go back into my file, because I don't, you know, a lot of mine is mock data. It looks real, though. It looks real enough. But when you go into banking, and I'm going to go ahead and I will leave the recording going for a little bit longer. Yeah, so let's say I just connect to a bank. Oh, I don't have that add account page anymore, right? There's no like upload manual. So when you first come in and there's no credit card or bank set up, you'll see file upload manually at the bottom underneath the VeriSign sign on this window. But when you can just click add account, or I can just click file upload, browse out, and get my bank feed. You know, click next. Choose the account. This is going to be my company checking, right? This would be the first time you would do it, right? You can get a file. Let's say it goes back 6 months, right? It's just going to ask you for date, description, and amount. Those are the only columns that we're going to pull in. And then you click next, and you just check them all off, and it'd be 1,000 transactions. You click next, it puts them in there, and then you start working them. That's how you do the file upload. Yeah. How to change client bank for account in invoice. Let me see if that's on the customer record. Oh, let me go back into that file. I'll try to find. I think you can do it in the payments tab of the customer record, because I know it's grayed out there for me. I'll go back and check there too, though. Sales, customers, chat, I think it was, edit, payment and billing. Yeah, so I can change it here. Enter the bank info. Because I think, oh yeah, plus, oh, the pencil icon, sorry, yeah, there you go. Oh, it still shows here though, so I might have to add a new one. I think that's the way you do it. You add a new one, because I see that it's grayed out. I still can't really change that there. Now, I'm not the master admin though. I wonder if that has something to do with it. Because when I go to, because I guess you might be able to do it here under payments and then manage account. I would check that. I'm just not sure. I haven't gone this far before with it. Or in the recurring transaction, I still think it's going to be grayed out. You probably found the same thing. I'm going to click edit here, click here, edit. It's still grayed out for me. So it must be more on the back end. I don't think you need to call support. Probably that manage account in the payment setting, or just add a new one, and use that. But I'm hoping it doesn't require support. I'm not really sure. Active team member, good. How can I delete an active team member? You can't. You can just make them inactive, like any of the other lists, right? So that's why it's, if they're in invited status, you can delete them. But if they are already in accepted, then you can't. Like for, let's say, like Leah, right? When I click in here, if they're in invited status and I click for administration of books, you'll see a delete option here. But I don't anymore, so my only option is like from the user profile. I'm sorry, it's under user profile. I click make her inactive, so she falls off the list and she won't have any access. But I'm hoping one day we have the ability to delete list elements in QBO in general. That'd be great. So I'm going to stop the recording.